the industry knows, we know that calls, they go unanswered and bookings are lost. Our mission is to automate a lot of the repetitive items that go on to better equip the staff to be more proactive. How much rapport can be built on booking an oil change? Yes, you want it to be pleasant for them, but for me, if I'm running a store, I'd rather have that person on the lane giving a great experience, not taking 2 or 3 repetitive calls, or giving a proactive status update.
Welcome to Retention Roadmap, Navigating Service Success for New Car Dealerships. I'm your host, Bill Springer. Today's podcast is sponsored by DriveSure. DriveSure helps new car dealerships remain the go-to provider for maintenance, tires, and repairs. For information on how DriveSure can help your dealership, go to drivesure.com/dealership solutions. My guest today is Sean Hartman from Toma AI. Sean and his team focus on helping dealerships capture and respond to customer interactions that often fall through the cracks, missed calls, after-hour inquiries, and delayed follow-ups. Today, we're going to talk about how those moments impact service retention and how AI can help dealerships recover lost opportunities while still maintaining trust and personalization. So, Sean, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Bill, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Of course. Glad to have you here. So let's jump right in. Where do you see customer service breaking down most in dealerships today?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get right to it. I think there's multiple areas, but I think the one that we focus on here at Toma is communications, right? And the phone and really the multiple channels, but mostly phone and text.
Mm-hmm.
And when you dig down, what we find is a lot of the volume happens in peaks and valleys, and it's not like the staffing model follows that, right?
Sure.
It's not like you bring in 3 advisors from 8 to 10, and then 2 go home, and then 2 come back.
Right.
So we have static staffing models usually, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for those morning and evening rushes, those when recalls hit, tire seasons, busy service seasons, people going, getting ready for summer, you don't find the staffing changes that much. So, the industry knows, we know that calls, they go unanswered and bookings are lost. I think fortunately, some people are beholden to the dealer. So you get some people calling back, but the truth is some people do defect after time, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's one of the factors of that. I also think just there's some continuity with that's needed with some of the siloedness that happens when in the path of an RO. So sometimes conversations, they live in different systems, maybe on a cell phone, a personal cell phone, and then it's also in a voicemail, and then a receptionist took a note on a Post-it note. So it's tough if it's siloed like that because we can't read people's minds, and you forget about things. So you can't really pick up cleanly sometimes where a person or the AI left off. So obviously that gap can cause conversations to stall or be, forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
And when you introduce, we'll kind of get into, some of the tech, when you introduce this new tech, you can't forget about that as well. That needs to be carefully designed and worked and embedded into your process like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
It can't just be put in, or else you're going to be dealing with the same issues.
Right.
Those are where we see, the communication breakdown. And really, not to get too far ahead, but our mission is to automate a lot of the repetitive items that go on
mm-hmm.
to better equip the staff to be more proactive. We like to say, it sounds a little harsh, but how much rapport can be built on booking an oil change?
Right.
Somebody calling it, right? Yes, right. You want it to be pleasant for them. But for me, if I'm running a store, I'd rather have that person on the lane giving a great experience, not taking 2 or 3 repetitive calls, or giving a proactive status update, and really crossing their T's and dotting their I's, and let tech take some of those repetitive items.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, we want our service advisors to be maximizing their value to the customer experience, rather than, as you say, those repetitive items.
Yeah, the mundane, the high value interaction is what we want to get that time back for them.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm curious, Sean, when you look at, I've talked to several industry folks who are with, appointment setting software for dealerships. And I'm always surprised that the percentage of customers who book their service appointment online, as opposed to picking up the phone and calling, is a lot lower than I expected it to be. I think it's creeping up there, but at one point it was as low as 20, 30%. I don't know
Yeah,
what the latest numbers are.
that's what we see. Yeah.
Really? Okay. And I'm curious from your perspective in terms of how AI can help reduce that gap, between the customer wanting to deal with a live human being and embracing technology because it's easier for them to do so. What do you think that looks like in terms of making customers more comfortable interacting with technology and AI in particular?
That's the $1 million question, right? And that's the journey that the dealers are on, the providers are on, and really mainly the consumer, because they're the ones that are actually going to be making the decision on the spot whether to move forward with that agent, right? That
Hmm.
AI, or demanding to speak to someone. So our philosophy behind it's I'm pretty proud of it. So we call it, it's a bit, the name's a bit corny, but it's real. It's the art of AI. So what we talk about is, it's an acronym: adoption, resolution, tailoring. So there's things that providers should be doing, and I'll speak to what I know, which is us, to help customers adopt this at a greater rate, right? Society in general is on this journey with AI right now of, am I going to use it in my real life, and how much? And I think as a society, we've had some exposure to it early on in these early models, these early kind of these first entrances of companies, and some of them even before that were just really advanced IVRs, like press one for this, or tell me what you want to talk about, and then it just is giving an output based on the input it gets.
Yeah.
That's way different than what's on the market now, and especially Toma.
Hmm.
It's all about getting them to adopt it, because we can work in setting this system up and reflect your labor ops and your schedule perfect and tell where your drop box is. But if they don't want to talk to it up front in that millisecond and
Yeah.
they make that decision, it's all a waste of time.
Hmm.
So it's all about getting that first adoption. And there's ways that we can do that. There's tricks we have, and that's things from different latency adjustments to how the voice sounds, patterns we see in the market of who's engaging with what more, having different accents and the speed in which they speak match to where they are.
Hmm.
And one of the most important things we see is multiple voices. If you call in all the time, you get the same voice over and over. That's an AI agent.
Yeah.
You know that it's AI, right? So maybe giving some diversity to those voices can help. So there's, not giving away all the secrets. There's some tricks to get people adopting it more.
Hmm.
The final one we see is getting, if we transfer to a live agent and then they're still not available, hence the reason why we've been brought in the first place, we take the call back. We call it a clawback. If we provide that customer a value event, aka they wouldn't have been helped otherwise, and we save the day,
Yeah.
that's going to help them adopt it in the future way more. We got some credibility with them. So we take care of the adoption piece. We're constant battle. Then we talk about resolution. Okay, they want to talk to us, Bill, but is it actually resolving the call? So the systems have to be smart enough to resolve a lot of scope, a
Hmm.
lot of different problems that customers have, and the needs they have. We do that, and then, but is it solving the problems in the way Bill wants them solved as a service manager? Is it fighting for a diag fee? Is it properly, talking about a repair a certain way? Is it telling them to the extent of what a maintenance B means, right? Is it treating customers as you would treat customers? And that's what any provider that any of the dealers choose needs to have. They need to be able to extract their preferences on how they do business and imprint it into the AI.
Yeah.
Because if we talk to a lot of dealers and they all don't treat customers the same way. Not that some treat some bad, they just have different preferences on how they work with their customers.
Hmm.
The AI that anybody chooses has to be able to tailor to what their choices.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. So when a vehicle owner is interacting with an AI agent, are they typically aware that they're interacting with an AI agent, or is it kind of unknown to them whether it's an AI agent or a real person? And does that matter?
Yeah, we play calls that that reflect both. I think we pat ourselves on the back a bit when they don't know, but the real matter of is if we really had to choose for dealers, which we don't, we let them choose if they want to disclose it's AI or not.
Hmm.
I think it's good at this day and age to let them know that it's an automated agent,
Hmm.
um, and then show the customer, give them a bit of confidence that it can help it instead of just asking for a live transfer if
Right.
they don't want to speak to that agent. So
Yeah.
I think disclosing is good. We see that dealers making that decision most of the time, but the majority of the time they're able, they do know. Just probably a few seconds in the conversation after a couple questions are answered, they might pick it up, and we'll hear that in some of the calls. Hey, are you an automated agent? And sometimes we'll get some like surprising answers of hey, you're one of the best I've ever spoke with. And I'll tell you, I just have to drop this gem. This is a real story. We just posted it. Is my wife brought her vehicle in and talking to the service advisor to a store that has Toma, and they said that somebody brought flowers in for the agent, and it was a bit of like an embarrassment because they didn't want to like put the guy down a bit, but they're like, listen, that's kind of the automated feature, and but so I validated that with the dealer. So
That's funny.
it's an exciting time. It is.
We talk about AI being able to take over some of those repetitive tasks and fill in when dealership personnel are busy interacting face to face with customers. I'm curious, Sean, what at this stage, what's kind of the most complex type of interaction that an AI agent can successfully handle with a service customer?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, a lot of the more complex things we see are transportation options. They'll want a rental, or they'll be asking about shuttles from different cities. Um, we're starting to engage customers in status updates as well. We're looking at different ways to do that. We find that's probably one of the most challenging to do at this point to get correct, because if you look into some of the service lane technology, sometimes they're not at the right stages. They're not reflected correctly, and if we pull that information, it can be inaccurate because
Yeah.
we're garbage in, garbage out.
Hmm.
So probably status updates are, I would say, the most like impressive things that we're going after. But we do see just some larger calls too, where we see people getting mail on different things. They think if it's a dealer, is that the dealer sending it to me? Is it a third party warranty company? We're navigating those conversations.
Okay.
And we even have the ability in some cases to pull inventory information, and have some pretty detailed sales conversations as well. But to answer your question, we can get pretty deep technically as well into different usability questions like, hey, my Bluetooth's not working,
Hmm.
or my charger cable. And in some cases where we have access to those resources, like an owner's manual, where the dealers provided us that, we're able to really give some in-depth questions. So typically, if somebody asks me that on a presentation of the product, we would be playing some of those calls.
Cool. Given the fact that our podcast is really focused on retention, service retention, can you share a couple of examples how Toma or AI in general has directly
Yeah.
impacted customer retention?
Oh, absolutely. The first and foremost is just 100% coverage, like
Hmm.
answering the bell end to end. 20 people could call at once. We're picking up all the calls.
Yeah.
And it's based on where you placed us into your call tree. A lot of times we'll start a little bit lower, after hours, safety net. It rings a certain amount of time, then we pick up. And then as you get, more trusting, both the consumer of us and the dealer, we can creep up into the phone tree. But answering that call at all hours, at all costs, if nobody picks up, is probably the number one mechanism that we offer for retention, because people, I mean, you have to put yourself in the customer's shoes. Like, you bringing your car in, it's like your livelihood. It's on your to-do list, and sometimes people have to call a couple times to get it done,
Yep.
right? And that's just not, that can stop today. Like, there's tools that like us that can just stop that today. So it just takes that kind of missed call failure mode out entirely. I think keeping continuity with the conversations is critical. We have a product called Inbox, where if you're a service manager, service director, appointment coordinator, or BDC manager, you can really, truly at this point leave for lunch leave at the end of the day, and have proof that every single customer that called in or tried to communicate with you, there's no heat cases.
Hmm.
There's no loose ends. And this inbox is pretty slick. You're able to enable the AI to have those conversations via text or voice with these kind of loose ends and polish them off and close them. Or if you don't like the way it's going and the customer might need some additional help from its sensitive customer, you're able to kind of toggle that off and text yourself through the platform as well, just kind of typing in there. So I think the clarity into making sure that conversations have closure is dealers have never been in a better position
Yeah.
till this day to do that.
Yeah, I would imagine that that's probably much easier to track digitally through AI than it would be through human interaction.
Yeah, and all that interaction is tracked in terms of sentiment. We're rating how these conversations are going. We're
Hmm.
flagging these things as heat cases if there's negative experiences, and we're giving humans obviously alerts and notifications to intervene if that's the case. And generally, it's nothing that the AI is saying offensive. It's just they're in a situation, whether it be their car is being repaired, they got a text from an MPI that it's very expensive. Those are when we'll see kind of the where they're it's a failure to fix it right the first time. Those are the items where you're not going to see at this day and age the customer yet staying on with the AI to be talked off the ledge. It's all about making sure that the staff knows that this is an open case that they need to handle. If they do want to engage the AI to handle it, we can do that. But we want to make sure to get those kind of high ticket or high value where the empathy from the person on the ground is needed, that they're alerted. So
Hmm.
we're an enhancer. We're not problem solving every single interaction at the store.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Sean, from a selfish perspective, from a drive sure selfishness perspective. One of our core products that we provide to dealers is service activated road hazard protection. So you get your oil change, your tires pass inspection, and you've got, say, 6 months of road hazard tire coverage that you simply return back to the dealership if you've got a
Beautiful.
damaged tire.
Yeah.
If a customer were to engage with your AI agent and say, "Hey, I've got a flat tire, I need to come in and have it looked at," um, is it possible for that AI agent to access the DriveSure data and say, yes, Mr. Springer, we see that you're currently covered via your DriveSure benefits for another 44 days. So you've got up to $150 of coverage on that to reinforce with the customer the value added that the dealership has decided to provide to their customers and leveraging it more through that communication piece.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, every day we're integrating with different APIs and different providers, but we've just recently launched an item called resources, and that's where we're able to really each dealer is again set up differently. We're able to put different items, resources, documents, and different feeds in there to kind of help get information to that customer through us. So that particular one, especially when you mentioned balance, I'd have to look at, I'd have to get with my
Sure.
engineering team on that one, but that's what we're aiming at to get that kind of information. That particular example seems fairly technical with trying to find what they still have coverage on. But that's in the realm of things. We ship very fast, and that'd be a good one to explore.
Sure. Well, as our sales guys are fond of saying, how hard could it be? Come on. And we know the
I do,
answer to
yeah. I
that.
do give the developers, I make it sound easy to them, but
Exactly. So going back to closed cases that occur even overnight, what in general, what key performance indicators should dealership personnel, dealership management kind of be looking at, particularly early on in the implementation process for AI agents?
yeah, I think in the beginning we kind of do a crawl, walk, run where we start with some more simple items and then get into the more advanced items. But if I had to choose one, it'd be resolution rate, right?
Hmm.
How much when you look at the percentage of calls coming in, how much can Toma handle or a provider handle, right? And that's an important figure. But Bill, it's there's variables is like in anything. Where are we placed into the call tree, right? How narrow is it? If we're really playing the receptionist, we're going to have more transfers. If you put us at press 2 for service, press 2 to make an appointment, we're going to be way up there because we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be making appointments, right? So when you got to look at the scope relative to the resolution. The other piece too is that this is kind of the unspoken secret with all of this tech is like, what am I doing with my time when I'm not taking these mundane tasks? Is my BDC able to call more outbound about these missed appointments, these declined services, these lease expirations? Am I getting feedback from my advisors that they're less burdened with the voicemails they have to return and scheduling appointments, and their closing rate on the lane goes up, and with the jobs that the technician's recommending.
Mm-hmm.
So there's I guess auxiliary benefits to this that aren't necessarily in our dashboard too, and I think there's a race for all other providers to get to illuminate that in different ways. And sometimes it's tough because we might get on some presentations and the dealer doesn't have all that data up front, of like, hey, how many missed calls that they're missing. And once we get in, we act as a bit of a review for the calls coming in. We have transparency into that, so we can look at those figures. But just the amount of resolution, I would say, is the primary piece, because that means, if it's a little bit lower than we usually expect, we need to hone the system more with you and get it to better reflect how you're doing business,
Mm-hmm.
and watch that resolution rate go up, because the AI is able to accomplish more.
Gotcha. Yep. I'm also curious, Sean, how do you actively solicit feedback from users, from vehicle owners, in terms of their satisfaction with their interaction with an AI agent? What mechanism are you using to solicit
Our
that feedback?
measurements. So based on like tonality, pauses, words that me and you aren't able to say on this podcast, we can measure how happy they are, right? And it flags it when it gets over a certain level, and we also require the system to offer a transfer, right, when we feel that,
Okay.
and it's that threshold. Last thing we want to do is shackle people to those calls
Yeah.
that they don't want. So, but we look at those internally. We have a proprietary system that flags them, and can provide feedback, and also an item called policies, where we're able to take some of these learnings that the AI is having and basically offer them up, package to the dealer, and say, hey, here's a pattern. Do you want to enact this policy that we think is proper?
Interesting. Yeah, that's
And
fascinating.
then, yeah, it's really slick, and it's just a special time when it's just advancing so fast.
Yeah.
But that's a big difference with us is we're digesting what's happening in the real world, offering it up to you in a consumable way to a dealer where you can make these decisions easier. We're also flagging calls internally from our staff, going, hey, that was not a good call on all fronts, and make some changes for the
Mm-hmm.
dealer. And the dealer can do that well. You'll see some of the dealers are really on top of these calls, especially in the beginning, saying, hey, that was like a 9 out of 10. It did everything well, except you didn't remind the person to bring their license in for the rental. Can you do that, please? So it's got to come from all angles.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating. Looking forward here, Sean, just as we wrap up here, as AI becomes more kind of embedded in service operations and becomes more, and dealers become more comfortable with it, what do you think should be prioritized next?
This is my favorite question. So I touched on it a little bit before, but get your KPIs in order before implementation, right? Get the landscape totally established for us, for you, for maybe your, the people you report to, and let's have a plan in place of what those look like, and what we want them to be, right? I think when you go in vague, that can be the enemy.
Yeah.
You also want to prepare the staff as well. Change management is probably the kryptonite for our industry. I would say we have to be able to communicate why this project's here, why it's taking place, what's going to happen, and what the expectations are, and how it's going to help you. I think sometimes that internal selling to the staff is key.
Yeah.
So I really recommend that. We like to bring in everybody into there. And then making sure your escalation rules are correct, and that there's safeguards, in place for customer data, and making, pressing your vendor, making sure that those are in there. And I don't think it's wise at this day and age to look at this as a replacement, right? You need to design it for continuity into your system. And that takes some participation from the dealer and participation from us to work together to do that. I think, like, what I would tell them if I had to say one sentence is, like, you're going to lose more customers in those quiet moments, not the large explosions.
Yeah. 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 I couldn't agree with you more that anytime you're implementing something new at a dealership, or I think in just about any business for that matter, the first constituency you need to sell is your employees, because if they're not committed, then
Yeah.
it's going to be a tough road to hoe. What has been your experience with what you've heard from, say, frontline employees, whether that's BDC or service advisors, once a system, an AI agent has been implemented? What kind of reactions in general have you heard from dealership employees about the impact it's had on their day-to-day activities?
Yeah, it's large, right? In terms of their time that they can spend on the lane doing more proactive follow up.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to admit, sometimes it's more novel. When we go into stores, we talk to stores, and they start being introduced to it. They kind of have the reaction as a consumer, like they think it's neat, they think it's funny. Sometimes they encourage their family to call it. They're kind of proud that it's in there, like
Sure.
that they're not getting with the times, but they have access to this tech to work in tandem with. So I see them being, very excited when it's introduced to them correctly. And I think, to your point and mine earlier, is the introduction is critical. That it's not here to replace, anything you're doing, but we want to give you your time back. It's almost, I've said, ironic that it's actually somehow giving you your time back and enhancing you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we're after. Automate the repetitive, escalate the critical
Yep.
is what we're after.
Perfect.
And I just want to add, like, when you speak with some of these technologies, and this is what we pride ourselves on, and this is what really makes a difference, is the intelligence that the dealers would sign up with Toma. It has to have empathy. It has to have indulgence. Because if you think about retention, you think about advisors and different personnel. What if you really boil it down? When people are chatting with the dealers, they want to be indulged. They want to know that the person cares. They want some empathy. Like, that's, if it's cold, even if it's a live agent, that's turning them off. So it's critical that any AI has the ability to reflect that. It needs to be able to, I guess, if the person's oversharing or taking the conversation off the rails into something that's not germane to the dealer, it's got to be able to, like, process that and acknowledge that and kind of indulge them for a bit, and then politely steer them back in. So
Yeah.
when you ask to what's germane to the dealer, so when you ask, what should dealers be looking out for, test the system to make sure that it reflects your type of customers and maybe what you've ran into as an advisor or manager and what they've said, and make sure it's able to indulge your customers and really put it through the ringer and test it.
I think that's a great point to end on. It's just a really fascinating topic, fascinating conversation that I think is just going to get better and better as we move forward in terms of leveraging the technology for everyone's advantage.
Agree.
Sean, if any of our listeners would like to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do so?
The best way would be my email. It is Sean, SEAN Hartman, HARTMAN @Toma.com. And obviously available on LinkedIn as well. And we'd be happy to guide any dealership or automotive professional through some of the best practices we're finding, and try to educate as best we can.
Fantastic. Sean, thanks again for being with us. Really appreciate your time today.
Bill, thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to Retention Roadmap, Navigating Service Success for New Car Dealerships. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.